This year alone, we've seen US peach prices soaring after a heat wave in Georgia this past summer, the durum wheat crops in Europe taking a hit, and driving pasta prices up around the world. French winemakers ripping up their grapevines in the Bordeaux region, and shortages of sugar and cocoa affecting candy and chocolate prices just in time for the holidays. So, how do you see these global climate shifts affecting the food and beverage industry from farmer all the way to retailer? Here are three things to know about the return of El Nino and why the food industry should care about it. El Nino is when warmer than normal water temperatures are found in the eastern Pacific. The jet stream then dips further south than normal, and that can drive rounds of rain and flooding storms to the southern U.S., while driving abnormally dry and warm conditions to the Pacific Northwest. And we're still talking wildfires, floods, mudslides, tropical cyclones, extreme heat that we've been seeing for the past several years, but we're going to be seeing them in different locations now due to that shift in the jet stream. Bottom line is, extreme weather events are hitting faster, harder, and lasting longer than ever before. And the food industry really needs to focus on solutions to secure our supply chain and distribution networks while developing sustainable production strategies that mitigate wasting resources.
All right, let's get into what's been in the headlines recently, the transition from El Nino to La Niña, which looks like it might coincide with the start of hurricane season. So given that transition, does that mean that there could be a greater chance of us seeing hurricanes entering into the US?
Susan, the short answer is yes. There is a possibility that we could be seeing increased tropical cyclone activity this summer, in the end of the summer into the fall, as we see more of a La Nina pattern developing. We are coming out of an El Nino to a more neutral status right now as we are heading into the start of summer. But if we see that La Nina develop, which it is looking pretty likely that we will see, that is going to be conducive for more hurricanes and tropical cyclones in the Atlantic basin. So typically, when we see a La Nina develop going into hurricane season, we can expect a greater frequency and intensity of tropical cyclones impacting the US, especially with the rise of temperatures in recent years. Hurricane Ian, for example, is still top of mind from September 2022, which was a La Nina year. That put a lot of pressure on the fruit and citrus industry in Florida. Orange production was on track to be low to begin with, but it ended up being the lowest production since World War II. Another example is Hurricane Ida in the Gulf of Mexico in 2021. That was also a La Nina year that resulted in the disruption of 96% of domestic crude oil production and 94% of natural gas production in the US. This drove up prices, and that affects the food and beverage industry as well. So in reflecting on these examples, it's safe to say that food and beverage industry needs to be prepared for any ripples in their routine, from agriculture to manufacturing to distribution to retail. In agriculture news, there is a new multi-million-dollar project that could be coming to a cattle farm near you. The Bezos Earth Fund and Global Methane Hub have teamed up to launch a $27 million initiative to breed low methane producing livestock. This week, we're going to be talking about regenerative poultry farming, what the benefits are for the land, the chickens, and even the benefits to impact climate change as well. So for the answer to all of these questions and more, I'd like to bring in our guest for this week, Paul Grieve. He is the founder of PastureBird. So could you tell us about PastureBird and why you chose regenerative poultry farming?
Yeah, PastureBird operates on a actually pretty simple premise that animals can be really positive for the land. Growing up as a kid in Seattle, all I ever really heard is that if you care about the climate, you should eat less meat. And it never actually struck me until much later that actually there's a way that we can raise animals that's in line with nature, that's very beneficial for soil health.
We move on to the impact of Hurricane Helene. This latest deadly weather disaster has caused massive damage to land and property, and the death toll is still rising. Southeastern agriculture is also bearing the weight of the storm's impacts. Affected crops include cotton, pecans, soybeans, and peanuts. Even several chicken processing plants were hit, as well as major timber mills. Officials from the state of Georgia say that although it's still too early to tell, Helene could cost the agriculture industry more than $2 billion in damage.